I am Captain Logan, and this is day 279 of Spawn Year. If you are made of evil stuff, and if you have been rebuilt by evil from the ground up, can you help be anything but evil? That's the common thread shared between Covenant and Lord Gaston, the once pious and great godly ruler who has now died of an incurable illness, and who, in his desperation, has ordered his men to steal and administer Covenant's necroplasm to him in the hopes of restoring his life. Gee, what could possibly go wrong? I like the parallels between the two men. Both blindly served the same unworthy god with the best of intentions, both in life susceptible to their own obsessions with self-importance and glory. And both couldn't help but pledge themselves to evil and death in their darkest hour, because their hubris made them arrogant enough to believe the world couldn't get along without them. I suppose I have a little in common with the both of them. My intentions are good, but if the voices I heard from beyond this place are more than my overactive imagination, it may be too little too late for me as well. And I too am hoping to use the dark powers I've been given toward a positive end, and with zero chance of success. Again, if that's not all just a dream. I'm not saying Mountain Dew is evil, but it started for me as a vice I didn't have the strength to control. And now, having succumbed to that same vice again, I'm wearing the very face of evil I'm reading about every day. I don't know, you think I'm reading too deep into that? Anyway, the necroplasm transforms Gaston not into a drunk, swaggering hunk obsessed with his own chiseled jaw to the point where he breaks into song about it, but into a grotesque monster who can see into men's souls and recognize not only the sins they've already committed, but those they will commit. And fully seduced by this power, Gaston is taken over by the monster totally, and he happily tears through and gruesomely dismembers and devours everybody he comes across. He says he's, quote, taking away their pain, but he's not Cybok from Star Trek V. He's not leaving them blissful, thoughtless husks. He's leaving them headless, blood-soaked, unrecognizable husks. I think it could be argued this abomination is causing a teensy bit more pain than he's relieving. It's interesting that while Covenant has always struggled not to let hell control him and to be better than Malbolge's puppet, this guy doesn't hesitate to accept his new role gladly. He even pretends to fight the evil toward the end just as a bluff to fake out Covenant and prey on his compassion. Perhaps there's actually none of Gaston left because there was no life, no soul in his body at the time the necroplasm was administered. There doesn't seem to be the same sort of ambiguity here like there is with a Spawn, where we're unsure but never any more than whoever's writing it if the original host was just a template for a new being, or if that person's soul is present within a Spawn. This thing is just as I described it, an abomination, something that never should have existed, and in all honesty, a creature built on a pretty flimsy set of contrivances. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's neat Covenant has to fight a monster created by his own necroplasm. In effect, he's physically grappling with the same evil he's been internally grappling with all along. That's cool. It's also his responsibility to stop this creature because it's his necroplasm and therefore his fault. Not for losing it necessarily, but for being a hellspawn in the first place, and perhaps for not immediately trying to find the necroplasm and reintegrate it into his body like his instincts first told him to do. If only his internal monologue then had been better inside me than in eviler hands, I would have totally bought his reasoning for considering that in the first place. And it's just nice to see Spawn fight something hellborn after hundreds of years of Bolgi letting Spawn wander around, get crucified, watch stage plays, and fight in wars with scantily clad supermodels. But what I don't buy is that Gaston knew about the necroplasm in the first place. Niles writes these convenient plot points like there was 24-hour CNN in the Dark Ages. Cagliostro shows up to help Covenant get his green sludge of damnation back, and he says Gaston heard about it. From whom? One of the druids that helped steal it? I thought most of them were dead now. And how did Cagliostro find out? Seriously, what did Gaston and his followers really think was gonna happen if they tried to put goo made by the devil in his body? I mean, sure, he's desperate and doesn't want to die, but you'd think at least one of his men would be like, "Sire, I'm not sure you've really thought this through." It wasn't even Gaston's idea to try it after he was dead. Anyway, the issue ends with Spawn about to get pummeled by the Sarlacc with a sword, which is a pretty exciting cliffhanger. There is this weird assumption Covenant, Cog, and Gareth all make before they tussle with the Necro Beast, based on nothing but an apparent three-way feeling only experienced soldiers get, that one of them is going to die. What an oddly specific mass hunch. Why be that silly about it? Just use a third-person omniscient narrator giving us information with a sense of hindsight in past tense. What none of them knew was that only two of them would make it out alive. And even then, it's still an awkward narrative choice. Not much mystery there. We know Cog survives because, duh. It could be Covenant if the book is ending, but I tried bringing back the Spawn Your laptop, and without Doomsvents it doesn't update and tell me anything, so I'm in the dark about that. He's not invulnerable and he doesn't have superpowers anymore, so it's possible he's going to make an epic sacrifice. If it is Gareth, that's so incredibly obvious that it's an insult to ask me to guess. Oh, and last thing. Imagine the people of Ryle cloud watching, and they see clear as day Covenant's face in the clouds while Covenant himself is standing there next to them. I could understand this if he were off in battle and that was a way to suggest they were thinking of him or his presence was still felt there. But what's the point? He's right there. Hey Covenant, up in the clouds. Look, that's you. Huh? Really? I see 2 rows of marshmallows stacked on top of each other and a big mug of hot chocolate. Right under 2 beady eyes and a skeleton nose. Signed, Captain Logan.